Oh, hello, ladies. I am back again. I am Auntie Ebony, Ebony Phoenix. I'm here with another podcast for Drop In. How are you guys doing? I hope your February the rest of it is wonderful, and we're looking forward to the spring, aren't we? So tonight we have a wonderful guest who has graciously uh, agreed to talk with us. But before I get into that, I want to talk about something very, seemingly random. Afro puffs. You remember those cute little pom-pom balls that your mom would put on top of your head, and they would be all cute, and you'd go to kindergarten or elementary school that way. And I saw some Afro puffs a few weeks back, and I realized that it brought up a feeling in me that I was very surprised by. Some of it was nostalgia, and some of it was happiness, because I love Afro puffs. And I could always imagine myself, putting my nose into a little girl's Afro puffs and just swishing it around, because I love Afro puffs. I'm an Afro puff woman. Another feeling that it brought up in me was dread. And the dread surprised me most of all, mixed in with those feelings of nostalgia and happiness and skipping rope and now and laters and, candy necklaces that stuck to your neck because they got wet, sweet tarts, ice cream, going down the street chasing the ice cream truck, dread. And the dread came up and I was like, why am I feeling that way? Why does this little kid's Afro puff scare me so bad? And it reminds me that you have those Afro puffs before adolescence snuck in. And for most of us Black ladies, the end of the Afro puff era was elementary school and going into middle school, right? Right. That's when we got our first perms, our straightening combs, hot combs. Oh, Lord, the gambit of tools to tame our unruly hair, which is kind of a rite of passage to adolescence, because you're going to be judged on different things. You're going to be judged on how your hair looks. Can you wear the lip gloss or the lipstick? Will your mama let you wear this or that, But adolescence for Black girls is very daunting. It's a very daunting time, because we have fears or threats that sometimes we don't even understand or know about at the time when we are at the most vulnerable. And I'm talking about Blackistan. Yes, I am. I'm talking about threats that we as Black females and women and girls and ladies, princesses and queens and whatever, that we face within our own community, as well as the dominant sector of our society, right? So I have a special guest here who's going to talk about that and talk about one way we can alleviate that. And I don't know how many of you have gone abroad, but it is always a wonderful experience to have, and it's one that a person never forgets. I have Simone. Simone will be chatting with me about these threats and what we could possibly do about it when we cross international borders. Simone, are you there?
Yes, Ebony, how are you? And thank you for having me.
And thank you, Simone. This is awesome that you agreed to talk about this, because I think someone with your perspective can give us a better perspective as to what can await us, Black women and girls, once we decide to expand our horizons and expand our borders.
Absolutely.
So thank you. All right. So let's talk about you first, because you are your identity is very germane to this conversation. Give us some details. Where were you born?
Well, I was born here in the States in the Northeast, but I am a second generation American of Caribbean parents, and both of them actually have European nationality. So I got a mix of a whole bunch of different cultures growing up.
That's wonderful. Now, come on, name some country names, okay? We can't just
Okay.
give us the
Okay.
deal, the deets.
Okay, well, my mother was born in a country named present day Suriname, formerly named Dutch Guiana, and it was formerly a Dutch colony of the Netherlands. And my father was born in British Jamaica, now known as just simply Jamaica.
What about your grandparents?
Okay, now my grandparents on my mother's side, my grandmother is Portuguese and German, and my grandfather is, I guess you would say, the descendant of Ghanaian Akan ancestry, as well as from the unfortunate transatlantic slave movement, or Ma'afa, what people like to call it, and East Indian ancestry from the indentured servitude, indentured servants that were brought over from India into Suriname. So that's my mom's side. My dad's side is Scottish, Irish, and of course, African.
So, this is a wonderful mixture of cultures and peoples, and that made you. Okay?
Yes.
That made you, and we can see that was definitely a good thing. Now, as far as your identity here in the United States, how did you hone in on that? I mean, do you consider yourself a global citizen, or strictly a United States citizen, or a Black American citizen?
I definitely would have to say more of a global citizen, largely in part because I grew up the way I grew up, even though I was born here in the States. I grew up in a multilingual home, as well as exposed to certain aspects of European and Caribbean culture. So yeah, I'm definitely more of a global citizen, and I had a lot of family that used to come from abroad, from different parts of the Caribbean, Dutch Antilles, such as Curacao, as well as Suriname and the Netherlands, and they all spoke Dutch, or some variation thereof, and I always was exposed to that from very young, early in my childhood. So yeah, it's language, food, and culture.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, did you ever go through a phase where you felt that you had to, I don't know, shore up your African American heritage, or has anyone ever questioned your identity?
Actually, yes. My family is very, very diverse racially, and I remember being a kid, then hearing my mother's accent, and my mother had a very strong Dutch accent, and people would always say, "Oh, why your mom, is she black?" And even though she technically was mixed, but and then I had uncle who was not black at all, no mixture of African DNA at all. And he, I would go by and I would, say, "Hey, Uncle so and so," and people would laugh at me because they wouldn't believe that he was related to me by blood, as well as his children that used to come over from Europe, and his grandchildren, and they were all raised of different colors and hair textures and stuff, and they just couldn't believe it. So I was bullied quite a bit when I was a kid, unfortunately, because of this mixed identity. So I really fought hard to blend in, and it was really kind of working against the current, so to speak, growing up. But yeah, it was a challenge, but I fully embrace who I am and in my full truth now. So
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that because, coming up as a Black American girl, especially in the southern part of the United States, your if you have a different phenotype in any type of way, if you know another language, your identity will be questioned by the dominant people in this society, white people and Black people. So tell us a little bit more about that bullying that I'm sure all of us have experienced to some degree.
oh my gosh, I'll start with the white American bullying that I experienced. My last name, the one I was born with, was actually is very non-American, very Germanic. And I got made fun of. They used to call me all kinds of, they used to kind of misname my last name, mispronounce it deliberately, make nicknames out of my last name and such and so forth. As far as the white Americans, they really kind of honed in on my phenotype, like literally looking at my features, because I don't have what one would call typical, Afrocentric phenotype, or what one would call Negroid, whatever they call them these days. Unambiguous features, even though I'm brown skin, I suffered through, like, okay, why does your nose look like that? And why does your hair look like that? And just a whole lot of crazy stuff that I would deal with. And that was from Black folks and white folks. So yeah, I've been through it.
Oh, I am so sorry about that. What about the hair business?
Oh God, the hair thing was mostly from Black folks. I really didn't. I straightened my hair, kind of early on. Got a relaxer because everybody else was doing it. My mother really didn't want me doing it, but I did anyway, and she was not happy about that. But when I went natural about 17 years ago, I didn't realize I even had the texture that I had, because I'd, been perming my hair for so long. And then I locked my hair, and, when I locked my hair, the loctician said, okay, your hair's going to take about 2 years to lock. I'm like, okay, why? She said, because of your hair texture. I'm like, okay, I just have Black people hair, right? She was like, no. Anyway, moving on from that, when I combed my locks out, cut them down short. And then I thought I just had a plain old Afro. Washed my hair, and I found out that was not the case. So, when I started wearing my hair natural, like loosely natural without locks, oh, where did you get your hair? Is that your hair? What are you putting in your hair? Is your hair Tex-Lax? I mean, I got all of the questions.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry.
it's just really aggravating. And that's one of the things, I think, why my mother wanted me to leave the country, at some point in my life, because she knew I was going to deal with this kind of crap, because she dealt with it too. So, yeah, so we'll get into that piece a little later in our conversation. But yeah, she kind of was kind of pushing me and softly suggesting that I start stretching my horizons across borders at a very early age.
Wow. What about your 20s? What was it like when you were in your 20s and trying to date and all that business, going up in the club and all of that?
When I was in my 20s, unfortunately, I was kind of like into the whole, okay, I don't want to be identified as other. I want to be Black, and I immerse myself into Black culture, much to my detriment, unfortunately. But I still found it difficult, even though I tried to immerse myself and I'd grown up here, my whole life. I mean, it was still difficult and challenging to, kind of fit into the Black collective here in the United States. And especially when they found out who my mother was. I mean, it just really completely just, in my last name, just gave everything away. Like, okay, where are you from? Where are your people from? I got all these questions. I'm like, okay, I'm a human being. Can I just be Black? No.
No, that's
works, yeah.
never. Yeah, that the answer to that question has to be convoluted as the question. Actually,
Exactly.
yeah, it's kind of strange here. It just seems like to be a part of the Black collective anyway, you have to have a narrow set of things will that will show your identity. There's no room for anything else. Have you noticed that?
Oh, absolutely. When where I grew up, it was a very multi-ethnic city. So it was a little better up there. When I came south, I had a lot of challenges. When I got outside of the whole Blackistan community in the New England area, it was a little different because you had people from all over the world there. Here, in where I'm at now in the Southeast, it's really a whole different animal. I mean, there are more and more people coming from up north to the south now that may be Caribbean ancestry, or may actually be Caribbean, or coming from wherever they come from. But they're so far and few in between. So when you're around Southern Black folk, I mean, they don't get it. You know what I mean? They don't get it. They don't get why you do the things you do, why you say the things you say, and all that. So it's a lot of nuance to that whole situation. I really wish the education system here was a little better, so that folks wouldn't be so ignorant. And I said it.
Actually, go ahead and say it. I wish it was a lot better.
Yeah.
This clan mentality, this tribe mentality that makes no sense because it doesn't give us to explore the fullness of who we are. And it basically dehumanizes people because if your hair is straight, we're gonna knock you out. If your hair is curly, how curly? It's just bizarre. And everybody didn't have the hot comb experience. Okay, and if you haven't had the hot comb experience, then you're not fully Black. I mean, all kinds of bizarre stuff. And how about religion? I mean, was that an issue also?
Yes and no. I grew up. My mom was basically part of the Anglican Church. A lot of people in the Caribbean, South America, and stuff were a part of that. And others were Baptists, or what have you. So my mom, when she came here, she didn't really like the whole Blackistani church model and the way they fall out in churches. She didn't like that.
Okay. Let me name them. Let me count the ways. Kojic, AME, CME, Missionary Baptist, Southern Baptist, just a whole Pentecostal, Pentecostal light. I don't know. Hare Krishna. I don't know.
Girl.
There's a lot of Jewish Black people around, Catholics, Episcopalians, or Anglicans. But the mainline Black churches tend to be Baptist in the South.
Yeah.
Some form or iteration of Baptist. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what about your friends? Tell us about what kind of a friend group that you developed.
Well, most of my friends now, present day, are largely divested. I don't have that many actual, friends. I mean, because I tend to keep my circle small, first of all, because I create very tight boundaries for myself, because I feel like that it's important for Black women to do that. And for many years, I hadn't done so. So I have created some really tight boundaries and have only kept some old friends around, maybe 3 or 4 old friends close to me. Other than that, most of my friends are, people I've met through, communities online and, and through expat communities and things of that nature. For the most part, most of my friends throughout my entire adult life, have been from the Caribbean. They've been Jamaicans and, Trinidadians and, people from, of course, my mom's country, Suriname, and, and people, from the Netherlands and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Well, I'm very fortunate. Very fortunate. I got to meet you.
Absolutely.
So why do you feel that let's say, divested women and girls in particular should consider crossing international borders?
Number one, it's a hierarchy of ensuring one's safety first. Safety is number one. We all know in this space, in this community, that the femicide rates for women of our likeness, regardless of national origin, are a big issue. In 2022 already, the month will be ending on Monday, so it's like you will have. I think we're close to about 200 Black women and girls that have come to a demise by the hands of men of our likeness, unfortunately. And last year, I think the numbers were closer to about 2,000, like I think 1,600, if I'm not mistaken. So when you start looking at those type of numbers and the incidences that have occurred, that continue to occur, in the escalation of crime and prison reform and all of that, it's not safe here for us. I really think that should be the first priority. Then one should consider in terms of at least begin to take sabbaticals, research countries, to visit, and or develop an exit plan from there. There are a lot of sources online where you can start to do that. The second thing also is that self-preservation is key, and a lot of people mistake divestment as solely being about one's dating pool. No, it is also about self-preservation in terms of not allowing people to encroach your space, creating healthy boundaries, learning to say no, and not allowing yourself to be the mule and the scapegoat for the entire Black collective. And this is cross borders. Also, this happens in other countries outside of the United States, but it seems to be a very entrenched part, a very deep, ingrained aspect of Black collective culture here in the United States. And as you know, Black culture in the United States tends to be the model for what goes on in modern times because of social media, and other countries and diaspora tend to follow suit. So with that said, I really think it's important for, women just in general, Black women, of course, Black women and girls, to start putting themselves first, learning to say no, learning boundaries, caring for self, ensuring they're eating properly and drinking their water, and exercising and things of that nature, and also getting therapy and doing the necessary what one would like to call shadow work on oneself to kind of purge themselves of negritudes. I'm just gonna say it, negritudes, and things that we were kind of groomed to believe and conditioned to behave. Have certain conditioning in order to kind of function in Blackistan, and to kind of purge ourselves of those things. Because if you can't, that will follow you into whatever borders you cross, it will follow you.
Exactly. The divestment is basically keeping your borders free from exploitation and crossing, and basically your health is a part of your wellness. Your that's your physical health. Your mental health is a part of your wellness. Your spiritual health is a part of your wellness, and basically the surroundings that you're in is a part of your wellness. And thank you very much, because a lot of people are still asking what is true divestment, and then there's a lot of folks in the YouTube streets saying, oh, divestment's this, divestment's that. No, those people want to make some coins. Auntie Ebony and Miss Simone are here to tell you that it's about taking care of you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So I have another question.
Sure.
What do you think of these women in the diaspora who are not divested, and they're crossing borders too? They're going to different countries and working, playing, having a good time. What do you think of them?
Okay, so as far as non-divested women, I think their reasons for expatriating are a little different than what ours are. So there's some similarities, but I think the major difference is that they solely focus on white supremacy and racism, and the Trumpers that are still lurking around post the election of 2020 and January 6, 2021. Now, when you start to look at that, and I'm seeing a lot of commentary on a lot of expat groups that speak specifically to, oh, I need to get out of here before the next election because they already know the current administration that is in place at present is probably not going to win another election. They know this. So they're using that in the police brutality narrative, which we've already debunked at the beginning of our conversation earlier when we stated there was 1,600 Black women, girls, that met their demise last year, while there were only, I believe, 250 Black males that met their demise by the hands of, law enforcement.
Well, let me stop you there. Miss Knowles is apparently is doing I guess a documentary on the plight of the Black man. What do you say to that?
Oh, it's absolutely rubbish, and I find that people like her live in a bubble because she is, in that 1%, income class, and also she has a preferential phenotype.
Well, let's just split it out plain. Preferential phenotype meaning
she's a preference, and she's red bone, yellow bone, whatever you want to call it, octoroon, quadroon.
She looks white.
Are those is she white?
No, she's not, but she actually looks pretty darn close to white.
Right.
So that is the preferential phenotype, ladies. So let's not get it twisted. Let's keep that straight in our heads.
Absolutely. So the fact of the matter is that she just kind of used her emotion and how her Black male identified, way of thinking and frame of reference, to create this documentary, probably, funded fully by her son-in-law. We all know who her son-in-law is, Mr. Sean Carter, Jay-Z, with his push for, going to the Supreme Court. But I know that's another discussion. I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but you get the idea. She used no facts. She knows no basis of, data or statistics that even substantiate a lot of the foolish claims that, she says, the talking points that I saw in some content creators' videos about this very subject. I don't plan on watching it. I don't have any desire. I was even discussing seeing some of the clips. I can't. But as far as I'm concerned with this whole Tina Knowles thing, though, I mean, there's a petition that's out there. Ladies, if you have a chance, please go and sign it. I know I'll let Ebony speak to that, a little later if she wishes, but that is definitely something I would want you to do, because it's very important. And I just think it's really crazy. Don't be Black male identified, young ladies, please, because it's not going to serve you well.
It will not serve you, nor does it serve the community well. Exactly. It's Simone. It's the saddest thing for to break down a young lady to the point that all she's focused on is the well-being of the men in her community and not herself. It's the saddest thing, and it has brought us nothing but tears. Right. Next question: how could becoming an expat benefit divested women and girls?
Okay. Number one, as I stated earlier, it will maximize one's personal safety and preservation. Of course, as I stated before, research is key. Research the countries that you're going to, ensure that what you're going to be doing, have a plan, figure out what you're going to do when you get there, and try to be in the safest country possible, that will maximize your resources that you're able to use. You're going to get optimal benefit from the resources that you have available to you. Also, making sure that you are keeping in mind that because of the femicide rates, look at that on a global scale, because I know there are some women that want to go to some countries where femicide is an issue as well as it is here. Don't do yourself a disservice. Make sure you're researching the safety indices of each country that you're interested in. Take a trip, do some research. Don't just sightsee. Go into observe the culture in the area and stuff. So I think it's very important for young ladies starting off with study abroad. That could be your first step. If you're a college student, go to your, local universities and take a look and see what options are available to you.
That is a wonderful, wonderful suggestion. I also would like to say, look for stable governments.
Mhm.
Okay. An unstable government, you may be fine one week, the next week you could be not fine. So really do some research, talk to some people, talk to locals, and find out where you need to be.
Mhm. Also, consider your industry. Like, if you're going to be starting a business, consider the industry. And let's say you're going to be a digital nomad. If you're going to be a digital nomad, I mean, if your work stretches across borders, without regard to where you are, I mean, just ensure that where you are and that the money that the revenue you'll generate from your business will help, sustain you while you're abroad. And also having a savings is definitely going to be essential if you are actually looking to expatriate and immigrate out of America, or immigrate to another country. Make sure that you have, a good, robust savings, and you have everything that you need available to you. Research is key.
And transferable skills would be
Absolutely
good. Definitely. Now, one more thing I want to ask. If a young woman would like to say, hey, I can be a nomad for a while. I want to see the world. How should she go about doing this? How can she start?
One thing I would start with is, first look at the immigration laws there, to see, because I know there are some countries that allow, that have nomad visas, where you can, be a nomad, a digital nomad, and work in that country and have a visa to work and live in that country, provided that you either have a job that will allow you to be portable and live anywhere in the world, or you have the income. You can show proof that you have the income coming into your account, or bank account, or you have a business that will allow you to, start a business there for permanent residency. Like, and I'm going to bring up an example. You and I have discussed this before, Ebony. The Dutch-American Friendship Treaty is an example that I'm going to use because I'm most familiar with that one. The Dutch-American Friendship Treaty started in 1956, and it has expanded to include anyone in the United States who, of course, can lawfully travel outside of the U.S., to come to go to the Netherlands to work, to start a business. All you need is fill out some paperwork, pay some legal fees. I believe it's $1,400 US, not 14, but $4,500 US in a commercial bank there, and you can start a business. That's one example of how you can have permanent residency in one country. Mexico, because I know someone that lives there now. You can go there on a 6-month vacation visa. If you have a job that is portable, you can do so in that way. So whatever country of interest, look at their immigration policies regarding that. Number one. Number two, YouTube is a great resource. Stephanie Perry is one person that comes off the top of my mind. She has something called Exodus Summit, and she has a YouTube page as well as a Facebook group, and you can follow her. And she has other partners, people that she partners with that are also expats that live in various countries around the world, that are Black women, that will give you resources. They have consultation services for starting your online business. They also have summits, like the Exodus Summit itself. It's an annual summit that's given, I believe, in the fall, where you can attend online. And I think they may be doing some in person, and things of that nature. So networking is key in the expat community, meeting people, of folks that live in a country that you'd like to visit and or possibly expatriate to, as well as Mexico has a very large community of Black women, and then there are Black women in Europe that are expats in various countries there. So, and also women in the Caribbean that are American that go abroad to certain parts of the Caribbean to expat, and you learn about all of their policies as well. Stephanie Perry is definitely an awesome resource. She even has a house sitting business. So, you can live rent free for about 3 to 6 months somewhere, as long as you're able to get into the country and go somewhere that maybe has like a long extended vacation visa program where you can just live for free, and you just need spending money. So that's a great way to start, especially for anyone of any age can do it. But if you're young and you don't have any children, I mean, this is an excellent opportunity to take advantage of some of these resources that we're talking about today. Start thinking about what you want your life to look like, and how you want to be able to travel, and how you want to have freedom of movement around the globe, because that's going to be very important, especially here in the next few years. I definitely highly suggest one looks into that.
Well, Simone, this has been wonderful. Our time is just about up, and we would like to invite you again so we can have some more in-depth discussions about global politics as it applies to Black women. Would you like that?
Oh, that would be awesome. You and I have a lot of conversations about that. So, and given the current state of affairs in our in the world right now, I think it's definitely an important conversation to have, and to kind of put all the Black women on notice to start paying attention to and getting things going. But I so appreciate your time, Ebony, and you having me here, and the questions that we were able to touch on. And I really hope the young ladies really take heed. You have a wonderful platform, and keep up the great work.
Well, I shall try. And with folks like you, that's easy to do. It's a lot easier. Now, Auntie Ebony has one thing, young ladies and older ladies. Get a passport. Get your American passport. I don't care if you don't even think about you're going to traveling within, you might be traveling within 6 months or a year or whatever, while you save up your pennies. Hey, get that passport. That is the first thing you do, and do it soon. Okay? Don't do it at the last minute. I got a job in Spain. Let me get the passport. No, get that passport now. Okay? It's no more than $240 for an expedited passport. You go fill out that paperwork, make yourself an appointment today. All right. So that is all I have for you ladies this week. And I hope you gleaned something from this. And peace, love, and light to you. Bye-bye.